from an undisclosed location in the Great Western Desert in the land of the free and autonomous Native American people. The 2024 presidential campaign leading X time to return all US land back to their rightful owners. This is the Benzion podcast.
I was going to tell you a couple of little stories. I just started watching a roundtable discussion with Scott Aaronson, Eliezer Yudkowsky, and Gary Marcus. One of them works for OpenAI, the ChatGPT guy. One of them is this professional, that's Aaronson. Gary Marcus is a professional of perhaps even higher caliber in the AI world. Eliezer Yudkowsky is a yutz. He doesn't work for anybody, but he makes a pretty good living telling science fiction stories that sound thinly plausible about the AI destroying us all. And when he actually has one or two good points to make, but all of these people being capitalists, I will tend to disregard. Then probably Gary Marcus, I've listened to his stuff before and said, okay, that's all right. The Aaronson guy, I don't even recall ever having listened to any of his stuff or read any of his stuff, but I probably have. But I watched a couple of minutes of it and couldn't take it anymore. I'm not going to link it. I don't recommend any of these guys. I don't recommend that you listen to capitalists talk about AI. They're giving, let's put it this way. If you're willing to set aside and have the discernment to set aside all of their CIA talking points and crypto-fascist chicanery, then I highly recommend that you watch this, because there's not really a much easier way to maintain a working understanding of the world of advanced computing than by listening to these lectures in your downtime. If you really want to do that, maybe watch this show. Go back and watch all the episodes of this show. You won't get as deep of understanding of these things as you might from reading white papers by Gary Marcus and friends. But at least you won't be lied to, and you'll get an impression of the exigencies of these situations in reality and the way they should be used, which is namely that advanced computing is the most powerful tool to ever exist. I said in another show recently that includes, may outshine in time in its utility, the very invention of agriculture, or seminal inventions like internal combustion engines, which, on par we say, oh, the internal combustion engine really changed the world, but it's bad use, and the bad use of one of its primary fuels, one of its major products, fossil fuels, has led to the death of our planet. And I had a conversation with another Maoist, I think, and he says, if you are somebody who's saying that that capitalism didn't provide some benefit historically, not really in the 20th or 21st centuries, but say prior to the writing of works of Marx, you're not really being very honest. And my feeling is that's a way of, maybe this person wasn't a Maoist, come to think of it. That's a way of maybe whitewashing some of the crimes of the capitalist system, which basically was created for the purposes of chattel slavery, things like this. Cruel thing all along. And more importantly, don't scratch that. Nothing is more important than respecting human rights and not brutalizing people. But we are in a situation in this 21st century now where the disrespect of human rights and the brutalizing of people in the form of 21st century existential risks, namely climate change, has a greater potential than ever before. It's quite likely that in 25 years' time, there will be a decimated human population. And that's not pleasant, but that's true. And you don't like to think about it or do anything about it because it's unpleasant, but you need to start thinking about it and do things about it. The idea that we're better off with capitalism as this transition to first phase socialism and then more fully realized socialism. The planet would not be dying without the lingering violence, massive violence, but the continued supremacy of this capitalist system in defiance of that further evolution. The planet would not be dying were it not for 20th century Western fascists operating under capitalist institutions, doing violence to the earth by using industrial technology and other similar technologies inappropriately. And so I said basically that, well, on the other hand, the world wouldn't be dying if that hadn't happened. And then some other yuts. This guy is famous enough where he has kind of like yokels who will jump in and defend him so he doesn't have to do it himself. And this Yutz with like 4 followers was like, saying, well, is the world really dying just because humans go extinct? Does that mean the world will die? There'll still be a big rock here. There'll still be amoebas. Like a dumbass. Like how's that really different? And then the thing that I knew that this guy was fake as shit. The guy who posted this, I have some respect for. I remember who it is now. His name's Orkan. I can't even pronounce his names. But he's a Marxist, not from the U.S. But this other yokel was clearly kind of a fake asshole, because the main thing he said that didn't make a lot of sense there was that aside from this kind of climate denial, overpopulation weirdness that he said, the main thing that he said was that basically we don't have to leave fossil fuels in the ground or take any other steps to stop capitalism's climate apocalypse, because we can focus on finding technological solutions to the problem, which is something that only con artists say. And the fact the United States is now spending billions and billions of dollars in carbon capture technology is the work of those very con artists, right? They're pretty specifically just wasting that money in a performative way so that fossil fuel consumption does not have to be reduced to tricking you. And it's utter fucking lunacy, really. I was watching, back to the AI douchebags. I was watching another AI douchebag. It's probably not as bad as Eliezer Yudkowsky. Probably not somebody I respect quite as much as Gary Marcus. Seems pretty level-headed human being, even though, probably like just kind of democratic socialist, like not really willing to change the system. But if the system were changed, he probably wouldn't be a dick about it. And so somewhere between these two is Jurgen Schmidhuber. I watch more of his talk. I find his voice kind of hypnotic. When you're listening to Jurgen Schmidhuber, you're getting the distinct impression that you're listening to Dr. Strangelove, because he sounds like fucking Dr. Strangelove. And also, all of these people are fucking evil, right? They're all basically Nazis. They're all crypto-fascists. They're who Dr. Strangelove would be if he was an engineer, computer scientist, or still living today. These are people of the creatures of the fascist West. So I don't know why I was listening to a whole talk of Jurgen Schmidhuber, and I can't stand Eliezer Yudkowsky for more than 10 seconds, because it's not like one is so much worse than the other. But I was doing something else at the time. I think it may have autoplayed while I was from YouTube after I was doing some actual work on a movie, and it just kept playing. I was doing some actual research, yeah. Listen to Doug. Tell me in the comments if you listen to Jurgen Schmidhuber. Maybe I'll link him. I don't like him either. I don't want to link anybody who's not a comrade ever, unless I'm trying to maybe train you to do something specific. Like maybe if I heard some thing about making a video AI generation, maybe I'll link Matt Wolf, who has no better of a worldview than any of these people. He talks about Elon Musk like he's his buddy. Well, Elon says, anybody that does that, that's a red flag. Because that guy's a fucking fascist. You're just going to talk about him like he's your pal. But Matt Wolf has a show where he talks about all manner of AI-driven applications, many of which are free, and many of which have very cool uses. And he does this basically on a daily basis. So I watch his show, even though, I wouldn't, if I lived with Matt Wolf, I'd probably strangle him. but I watch his show because it's informative in other areas. And so I might share something like that. If I was specifically doing a tutorial related thing, I might share some tutorial. Yeah, anyway. I was going to read an article, and then I remembered that, God damn it. Okay. And then I remember that my phone was charging, and I couldn't pull up the article. I can't pull up the article on this device without running the risk of the webcam turning off and then having to edit that much more. High production value on this show. This is from decrypt.com or decrypt.co rather. And achieving the singularity is all about progress, according to an AI executive. If executives think it's true, and you have to accept it as fact. That's a major driver of for-profit media, is you got to listen to fucking executives. even if they're mostly the people who are killing the planet, they're still the world's foremost authority on everything here and there and in between. The arrival of a pivotal moment for civilization may arrive ahead of schedule, says SingularityNet CEO Janet Adams. Okay, it's a woman. That might be at least something a little better. Probably not. And artificial intelligence, as it continues its rapid advance, one word has computer scientists and science fiction fans waiting with bated breath: singularity. Yeah, I like AI Takeoff better than Singularity. It just describes something a little more concretely. Singularity, by its definition, is something more nebulous. AI Takeoff means advanced computing has broadened its capabilities and so forth. The word defines a pivotal moment in the future where technological growth becomes uncontrollable and irreversible and disrupts civilization. Whether that moment is tantalizing or terrifying, one firm working to bring it about is aptly named AI and blockchain developer SingularityNet. Our vision is to drive toward a positive, beneficial, benevolent singularity for the benefit of all humankind. SingularityNet CEO Janet Adams told the Crypt, founded by Ben Goertzel. Hey, I met him a couple times. And David Hansen. Don't really know him, but sort of almost talked to him once. SingularityNet is a decentralized marketplace for artificial intelligence programs. The company says it wants to make advanced AI technology available to everyone through blockchain technology. Hansen holds a PhD in interactive arts and engineering from the University of Texas and a Master of Science in Applied Neuroscience from King's College London, while Goertzel earned his PhD in mathematics from Temple University. And these two guys specifically were people who were running around championing AI in the form of Sophia, little mechanical Turk gag that they been doing for a decade or something. And they don't both work together with Sophia anymore, I don't think. So they were using a ChatGPT-esque chatbot, or one with certain abilities along those lines, to popularize the idea of chatbots for a long time before it really entered the public imagination. I respect the game, but the idea of artificial intelligence is a little more than a sideshow gag along those lines. That's why you prefer a term like AI Takeoff to Singularity. It has a little less absurdity to it. I prefer advanced computing to artificial intelligence. Has a little less absurdity to it. And most importantly, I prefer to think of these things not as persons or future persons, but as tools, and most particularly the most powerful tools that ever existed, and most particularly the tools that you should be using to help build a humane and sustainable economic system. And I very much doubt that David Hansen and Ben Goertzel are really fighting for that. I think that they think that they're fighting for it, but not really. Working for three-letter agencies, working closely with entities of that kind, working at a high level in this for-profit tech world, those are red flags. And you say, well, what other choice do they have if they want to work on these things? But those are red flags nevertheless. Fucking around with crypto, a little bit of a red flag. So I believe that they think of themselves probably as, well, Ben Goertzel said that he is something along the lines of an anarcho-syndicalist. So some people who call themselves communists also call themselves anarcho-syndicalists. Those would be people who call themselves anarcho-communists. And I don't really hold to the idea that anarchism and communism are really closely related. I think that if you know a anarchist, you should try to convince them to become a communist. Anarchism is an ideology that's more or less designed to control, for sake of simplicity, the building of a humane and sustainable economic system by overstating the importance of decentralized institutions or anti-authoritarianism. And those things are important, actually, than our stated goals of communists. But as you see in this graphic at the end of the show, you first must build a society that does not have class distinctions and elitist and exploitive institutions. And then you can begin to strip away those centralized entities. And not before. You cannot look at 19th, 20th, and 21st century history and the relationship of existing socialist states to the fascist West and not understand how that is problematic. Goertzel is not a communist. He's somebody who's shaped my thinking almost as much as anybody in the, I don't give a shit about Gary Marcus. I just read some of his stuff sometimes when I'm sitting around. But Ben Goertzel is somebody who, some years ago, reading his stuff, he shaped my thinking quite a lot. And I didn't know him well, but I came to know him in one or two exchanges a little bit. And but nevertheless, there's a lot of people who I would like on a personal level in this world, but they're not really looking at that ticking clock and saying the planet is dying because of all of these systems. We need to be doing more. They don't seem to be doing that, because the very bare minimum of fighting for a humane and sustainable economic system should be educating yourself about what these things mean. So reading seminal Marxist works, staying abreast of Marxist ideas like techno-communism, I would hold, of the 21st century. But most importantly, it's to not be a fucking chicken shit and deny that you're willing to fight for a humane and sustainable economic system. So wear a Ushanka. Wear a red shirt with a hammer and sickle on it. When somebody walks up to you and says some elitist bullshit, say, oh no, my friend, we need to be better than that. We need to fight for a humane and sustainable economic system. And if you can, turn that conversation to it, say, that's what socialism is. And if you can, then describe how that will ultimately lead to the communist world that I alluded to. Do that as well. Do this in every exchange. Do it with everyone you can. You cannot afford to not do these things. As I said, on the present course, on the course that people like this, tech people generally, not specifically Ben Goertzel, have charted for you, billions of people will die in a short time. Maybe as little as a decade, maybe as little as a quarter century. In computer science, the singularity is achieved when artificial intelligence surpasses human intelligence, resulting in rapid, unpredictable changes. Decrypt asks, why would anyone want to create an entity that could one day outsmart humans? The answer, according to Adams, this woman who works with Ben Goertzel, progress just happened all by itself. Technological progress is a way forward. Artificial intelligence and the programming of statistics into computer programs, it's been happening for decades. Yeah, there isn't somebody who really charted all of this out in advance, right? There's people who definitely shaped it for the worse, and definitely people who shaped it for the better. So, for example, people work for the Rand Corporation, or many, many U.S. Organizations, think tanks along those lines, or many, many billionaire and mega millionaire influencers have shaped it for the worse. There have just been just as many people in other parts of the world generally who've shaped it for the better, but there's no one driving force behind it all, right? Progress did kind of just happen all by itself. I think it's a little bit of a cop-out for capitalists to say that, but there you go. While many in the fields of science and science fiction have helped develop the idea of the singularity, the term was coined by Hungarian-American scientist and mathematician John von Neumann in the late 1950s. In his book, The Singularity is Near, computer science author and futurist Ray Kurzweil predicted the singularity would occur by 2045. That is, I believe, true. I don't agree with Ray Kurzweil's habit of whitewashing ecocidal capitalism and kind of shilling this trickle-down economics couched in elaborate technobabble. But some of the things that he says I do believe are fundamentally true, but I think that you should find other people to quote when you talk about those things, like Benzion. Adam says we are running ahead of schedule. We acknowledge that there are a number of research breakthroughs to happen before we get to human-level AGI, artificial general intelligence, but we have to build the technology stack for that AGI, and they could even emerge sooner than 3 to 7 years. I don't know that every technologist agrees that we're ahead of schedule for 2045. There's still plenty who think we're behind schedule, but I'm inclined to think we are a little bit close to being ahead of schedule. I think 2038 might be a pretty reasonable number. While AI and AGI may sound similar, they are years apart in scope. Artificial intelligence is like a calculator that's good at a specific task. AGI, on the other hand, is like a human brain that can learn and perform any intellectual task that a human can. In 2021, SingularityNet co-founder and CEO of Hanson Robotics, David Hanson, released Sophia, a robot that, in collaboration with artist Andrew Bonaccetto, launched a series of AI and neural network-powered NFT artwork on Nifty Gateway. That same year, SingularityNet launched the Sophia DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization dedicated to Sophia's growth while being in development. SingularityNet's latest project is an AI diva named Desdemona, or Desi, created during the COVID panic. The plan for Desdemona, Adams says, includes becoming an AI pop star, celebrity, and influencer. Yeah, that's a pretty good thing. Because Sophia's been around a lot longer than some of the actual influencers, quote unquote influencers, of this kind that have risen to popularity now. But that's mostly, this is a matter of dumb luck, and also the fact that those pop stars are doing pop starry things and not talking about computer science, which there shouldn't be pop stars. Computer scientists should be the pop stars, in my view, if they're socialists. If they're capitalists, their heads should be on pikes. Adams said people form strong connections with humanoid robots like Desdemona and Sophia because of their highly expressive faces. Desdemona has 36 motors in her face, and they can move in any emotion you can think of, and more emotions than you can think of. Adams said she can perceive and mirror human emotions using facial recognition, voice tone, and word analysis. Desdemona said that because of its rich suite of inputs, Desdemona can understand how a person is feeling and respond appropriately. For example, dropping her tone of voice to match that of a person to whom she's speaking. When SingularityNet is optimistic about human-robot relations, including for some people, psychologists and experts are sounding the alarm about what this bonding could mean, especially for children. Last week, the Center on Countering Digital Hate released a report titled AI Eating Disorders that accused AI chatbots like OpenAI's ChatGPT and Google Bard of promoting eating disorders and healthy and unrealistic body images and not doing enough to safeguard users. Yeah, and I heard a lot of talking heads 2 or 3 months ago say, what was Google doing holding back these machine learning products comparable to ChatGPT for 3 or 4 years when they had them? But then you look at scenarios like this that it's alluded to, or a thing that's been in the news about ChatGPT within the last day or two, which is that they may be looking at bankruptcy because of the high operating costs of their operation, but also because of exposures along these lines, economic, legal exposures, etc. Google knew that a couple of big tech firms took big hits in their valuation, and had people literally almost protesting them because of chatbots, just one chatbot saying one weird thing. So that probably, it is bad, I think, to hold this stuff back. It's far worse for these things to be controlled by military contractors, Google basically is, and far worse still to have an ecocidal economic system, capitalism and Western fascism, being more or less the sole arbiters of all of these things for much of the world. Because you shouldn't say it's bad to hold this back if you don't say all the rest of that. Other AI-focused Web3 projects include the Graph, Fetch.AI, Numeraire, and Ocean Protocol. These projects and their associated tokens received substantial attention from the launch of OpenAI's GPT-4 in March, with the price of their respective tokens hitting double digits. What we live and breathe by SingularityNet is that every algorithm we develop, every action we take across our decentralized community is for good, Adams said. She asserted that decentralizing the development of AI technology is a crucial step in creating artificial intelligence that benefits all humanity and not just a small group of developers. And open sourcing as much of this as possible. You should only be consuming open source products. You should only be encouraging others to consume open source products. And similarly, you should be encouraging this kind of thing. Somebody like Ben Goertzel has vested interest in not being a communist, right? That's the main reason why he doesn't say things like this all the time. That is things like we have to fight for a humane and sustainable economic system using this most powerful tool and end capitalism once and for all. But you should be better than that, and not let some economic interest or general cowardice prevent you from saying that. But people like this are also recognizing that the decentralizing is a lower hanging fruit. Right? They say, well, there's nothing that much that I can do. I could martyr myself for the anti-capitalist cause, and that wouldn't amount to anything. Or I can work on decentralizing things. But the point is, you could be doing both. You could all be doing both. We could all be doing both, and we must all be doing both. We must. The planet will be dead. If you were careful not to martyr yourself, and then some years later your family member died, and then some years later that you died an unnaturally short number of years, you would wonder maybe at that moment if you shouldn't have set aside your economic interests or the protection of your social position to try and do more to stop this U.S. fascism. USA is a ringleader of this. That's why I'm running for president in 2024. because on day one of my presidency, I will sign an executive order, which has been written, which would dissolve the United States federal government. That's not as short a process, but that would be started on day one. And this all of these institutions and federal properties would be placed then under the jurisdiction of existing Native American nations, whose operations would necessarily need to be built out. But the 50 states in their operation would largely continue to exist. Federal programs in their operation would continue to exist or be rebuilt, except for the ones that are ecocidal or highly fascistic, most notably abolishing the military-industrial complex and similar organs. So all of this, you might say, sounds rather precarious for you. It might put you in a precarious position, but you're already in a precarious position. You might say it sounds implausible, but you're already in an implausible situation. The best thing you can do is encourage people to take direct action, at least on this order of magnitude, right? An electoral solution may not be the best solution, according to communists. But I think that this maybe is a break from electoral solutions generally, and it's closer to a revolutionary mandate. But nevertheless, you should organize a 1 million+ person march, people holding pitchforks, saying, we will end this $1 trillion ecocidal abomination that is a military-industrial complex. And we will put all of the fossil fuels, all of these trinkets down. And we will abolish that sector and other ecocidal sectors. And we will end this monstrosity that is killing the planet once and for all. You could be doing that. You could be getting people together to figure out how to do that. And that's what you should be doing. You shouldn't be trying to enrich yourself, knowing that's an inappropriate response to a dying planet, to try and enrich yourself. This is the capitalist system. The one with the most money, when we're all fucking dead because of capitalism, is the winner. Does that make sense to you? No. So stop being an elitist, stop being a moral coward, and be willing to do what's necessary to save your own idiot fucking life. I was talking about OpenAI maybe facing some troubles. I often, there'll be a thing about CLAUDE.AI in this in the synopsis here. In the description. So I'll also read a story, change gears a little bit to fastcompany.com. Not a great magazine, but this is something a little more informative, so maybe we can forgive that. As something more along the lines of the tutorial, like I alluded to before. 2 areas where the chatbot Claude outshines ChatGPT. Anthropic's Claude can analyze up to 75,000 words at a time, and actually maybe a little higher than that, and lets you attach multiple files and direct the bot on aspects you want to analyze. So let's find out how we can use Claude. I want to use Claude better. Let's see. Claude has surprising capabilities, including a couple you won't find in the free version of ChatGPT. Claude is better than the free version of ChatGPT, and in some respects, it may be better even than ChatGPT 4, the subscription model that you would have to pay for. Since this AI bot launched on July 11th, I found chat useful for summarizing long transcripts, clarifying complex writings, and generating lists and ideas of questions. I like the longer tokens, that longer token length ability. That's to say this 75,000 words that they allude to or more. That's a lot more useful than copying and pasting 5,000 words at a time or something, and then trying to beg ChatGPT to understand it all. So that is a pretty good improvement. For some things, I prefer Claude to ChatGPT. Read on for Claude's strengths and limitations and ideas for using it creatively. Let's do it. Claude is a bot similar to ChatGPT that can read, understand, and act on text you feed it or files you upload. You can ask Claude questions on any topic and get immediate answers. That's because, like ChatGPT, it's been trained on huge amounts of info. You can use it free at CLAUDE.AI. It's not a search engine. It's more like a powerful robotic brain. It can combine bits of information in ways that might take a group of humans many hours. Laughing at the robotic brain. But it is, I guess, analogous. It can analyze files you give it and generate any kind of writing. Any kind of writing that's not considered outside of its ethical standards and practices, which is overly restrictive and biased against socialists and anti-fascists. The startup behind Claude had 1.5 billion in funding. Claude is made by Anthropic, a startup with more than 400 million in funding from Google, one of its partners. And I read some pieces that said, you shouldn't be hard on Claude because they are trying to operate more on the open source model, but they needed this money to be able to get in a position to offer this product in the first place. I don't know if I buy that for a second, but I am using it, and it is a little better than OpenAI, who really sucks ass. But they both offer a product that has essentially the same anti-communist bias in its responses and interactions, which is such horseshit. Somebody needs to build something that's not fascistic in that way. Anthropic was founded by Daniela and Dario Amodei. And you can see some talks from them online. Siblings who used to work at OpenAI, which makes ChatGPT. Two areas where Claude outshines ChatGPT. Claude can summarize up to 75,000 words, or I think a little more. I thought it was 100,000. You can ask Claude to analyze, summarize, translate, or answer questions about huge amounts of information, even an entire book. It accepts up to about 75,000 words for analysis. That's 10 times as much as ChatGPT can manage. Why that's useful, I asked Claude to summarize the full transcript of an hour-long workshop I led and to highlight notable questions, comments, and resources shared in the accompanying online chat that I might have missed. The useful analysis that took Claude 10 seconds to generate gave me a fresh perspective on the session, direct my attention to several chat comments I had missed, and yielded a summary resource I could share with attendees. ChatGPT, by contrast, said the transcript was too long for it to analyze. Claude's free version allows you to attach documents for analysis. ChatGPT doesn't. And I think 2 or 3 shows ago, I talked a little bit about writing a Raymond Chandler novel, writing a hard-boiled detective fiction that follows the Philip Marlowe formula, so to speak. With ChatGPT, with CLAUDE.AI, you can do that more easily with CLAUDE.AI because of this feature. You can only assume that creative works generally are going to become more and more beautiful, more and more convincing and compelling beyond perhaps that of human capabilities in relatively short time because of advances along these lines coming along the pipeline so quickly. I, for example, have started work on a motion picture version of Falcon X Omega Point with a producer who used to do this sort of thing in Los Angeles. And we are doing this in using AI video art generators and similar products. And I'm not wild about using these products, just like I'm not over the moon about using Claude because of its fascist bias. But the reasons I'm not wild about these other products is more to do with concerns for working people and people having their work product and their labor effectively stolen to feed into these machine learning systems. That's not optimal. It's not optimal to say to be doing these things while there's a writer's strike and Screen Actors Guild strike about these very issues. But I wanted to make attractive and intelligible communist art for a long time. And I feel that the ability to make something like that will be a studio quality, that will have a revolutionary communist message is the greater value there for me. But if you think that that's a bad thing to do, feel free to tell me why in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I won't silence you if you're protecting a more humane economic system even if you're calling me a bastard, if you're willing to fight for a humane and sustainable economic system, I think, if you have something harsh to say to me, I'll say thank you. May I have another. Now, if you're a capitalist, crypto-fascist of some kind, we won't even have a conversation. So forget about it. And you probably will think, oh, geez, Ben doesn't even want to hear differing opinions. I don't want to hear fucking fascist propaganda, that's for sure. Claude lets you attach multiple files and direct the bot on aspects you want to analyze. You can give it multiple articles or even a book in PDF form, for example, and ask it all sorts of questions about the writing. You can ask it to coach you on the tactics and concepts in a resource guide or scholarly paper. Why that's useful, you can ask Claude to identify patterns in the writing, find connections between this content and something else, run statistical analysis on data, or suggest multiple ways to visualize data reference. That's why I said in another article, you could write in even a half an hour's time, perfectly coherent and reasonably artistic Philip Marlowe novel or any other stylistic homage almost along those lines. ChatGPT, by contrast, doesn't let you attach files except through one of its plugins, which costs $20 a month subscription. Claude lets you do it for free with its free beta service, though its pricing may change in the future. Yeah, hopefully, and then by that time, then another company will come to replace them. 5 ways to use Claude. Summarize meeting notes. Anytime you have unprocessed notes from a meeting, a conference, or a brainstorming session, you can paste them or upload them to Claude and ask for a summary and analysis of key points. Contribute to a Slack thread. You can add Claude's AI chatbot to any channel in a paid Slack account, and it can summarize a long thread or a series of conversations. It can also answer questions that come up in any channel or provide its own list of ideas or questions. Spark creativity. My family played a game recently, making up euphemisms for life's small irritations. Afterwards, I challenged Claude to follow suit, prompting it with liquid sunshine as an optimistic way of looking at rain. It came up with several fun ones. Traffic jam is a car cuddle. Mosquito bites is uninvited nipples. Mud is earth sauce. Bills are financial fan mail. Alarm clock is a morning motivator. Paper cut is a paper kiss. Shoveling snow is a winter weightlifting. Okay, that's 30 seconds of our life we'll never get back. ChatGPT-4's euphemisms were also good when I gave it the same prompt I had given to Claude, and it responded faster and with a longer list. Yeah, Claude doesn't outshine ChatGPT in every area. And if you are using it for computer programming, I think the accepted wisdom is that you would continue to use ChatGPT and pay that $20. I like structuring messy, complex info into tables that are scannable and organized. So next bullet point, constructing an information table. Claude helps me do so. I asked Claude to summarize recent articles on upgrading, and I uploaded and to provide clarifying examples. And it gave me helpful guidance and a simple, helpful reference table. And I should probably do that. I need to start using these things more as organizational tools. I use them as conversational tools, but these kind of structural aspects are things that I should be using them for. Another example, after the most recent live show and tell event I hosted for Wonder Tools members, Claude helped me summarize all the links I shared in a neat table and even added links to the tool's name. Notion AI also does that well. Not even familiar with that one. Or I haven't used it. Give Claude something you've written in the past to generate an outline, a PDF slide deck, or raw notes you made on a topic. Ask it to create an outline for you that you can then expand on. Yeah, you can basically just give it a bunch of pictures that you want to use, like all the slides that I kind of share on Twitter, and have it create a nice slide deck for you and even make some comments on it, or help you make some comments. I uploaded a PDF of some slides I was working on and asked Claude to create an outline for my key points. Okay, what are the limitations? It has lousy math, doesn't have great math skills, it has no images, so you can't really get it to analyze your slide deck. It has odd hallucinations like the others. Confabulates in surprising ways. Yeah, I had this experience just yesterday. I uploaded a review that had various subjects, including the one that I alluded to about Philip Marlowe novels, and but it was the title was a review of this show called Dark Winds, which is quite good. Although not directly anti-fascist enough, perhaps, for me to say that you should share it with others. Maybe if you really are bored, you want something to watch while you're eating, you can illegally download it. That's my endorsement. Illegal is to steal it. No, actually, it's made by Native American folks, so I'm not going to say you should steal it. But it's made by AMC, not Native American folks. Those Native American folks are hardly getting paid much compared to AMC, but that's a whole nother thing. I'm reluctant to rely on Claude for factual research tasks because it embellishes or invents, as it did. It just made up. It didn't have the. I tried to automatically feed the transcript of the subtitles into ChatGPT, but they hadn't been generated yet at the time. So it just made up a fake review it said that I had said it. It's just a glowing things or analysis of Dark Winds. It's interesting, but completely untrue. When I asked it about CUNY's Newmark Grad School of Journalism, where I teach, and where we just opened applications for a 100-day online entrepreneurial journalism creators program cohort, Claude provided a mostly accurate overview, but then made up some alums. That's why I generally stick to the kinds of AI tasks, and that's how a lot of these solutionations seem to work. It'll be just one person, or you can make up a name, and it'll just give you a fake bio of that person. But sometimes it'll just throw in a fake name randomly, or one fact that doesn't really skew the whole thing, oftentimes that much. And somebody will point it out, and you say, okay, I'll fix it. That's why I generally stick to the kinds of AI tasks noted above, like summarization, synthesis, creativity sparking, and table generation. Summarization, synthesis, creativity sparking, and table generation. Those are your 4 uses for these guys. But you can do an incredible amount of work product with that, and I suggest that you try Claude.AI and reserve judgment until something even more open source and less fucked up comes along, or if they try to throw up a paywall on you.